good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. My name is Charlene Margot, co-founder of nonprofit The Parent Venture and founder of the program that brings you the Parent Education Series. We are so glad to have you with us, some returning faces and some new faces for the Parent Forum. This program is, again, an initiative of the Sequoia Healthcare District. We are very grateful for their sponsorship, along with the Sequoia Union High School District and this program, The Parent Venture. This is an interesting topic today, the one thing you can do to be an even better parent. And we're hoping that you will both be generative today and listening to one another. Dr. Magen has some interesting events planned for us, and we hope that you will take part in all the activities and help us figure out what is the thing that you can do to be an even better parent. Again, with more than 100 of you signed up, we know that this is an interesting topic, and we look forward to today's discussion. Eran is going to be talking for about 15 to 20 minutes, and then he will be leading some workshop activities around this topic. Those of you familiar with Zoom know that there is a chat button at the bottom of your screen. My Parent Venture co-founder, Bev Hartman, is going to be putting links, resource links in the chat, so please do check that out. And if you have questions, that's where you'll put them in the chat. And I think that Dr. Magen will probably also be asking for your input. We'll be using that chat button this afternoon. I also want to say that we are recording the introduction, sort of pedagogical content piece of this talk, and then we'll turn the cameras off. We want to protect the privacy of everybody who's on screen with us today during the discussion portion of this commentary. We have a very robust video library, our YouTube channel, with more than 35,000 views. You can find on that many of the parent forums in both English and Spanish. So we hope that you will take advantage of that free resource for parents and educators and community members. All right, let's get started. Let me tell you a little bit about today's keynote presenter and workshop leader. Dr. Eran Magen earned his MA in Education and PhD in Technology from Stanford University and completed his postdoctoral training in population health at the University of Pennsylvania. He served as the director for the University of Pennsylvania's Department of Counseling and Psychological Services before founding Parenting for Humans. Dr. Magen works with public school districts, universities, hospitals, and private corporations, where he teaches educators, clinicians, managers, and parents how to build stronger, more joyful relationships in their professional and personal lives. Please join me in a really warm virtual welcome for our friend, Dr. Eran Magen. Take it away, Eran.
Great. Thank you, Charlene. Hello, everybody. It's nice to see you. I'm in Connecticut, which is pretty far and apparently about 50 degrees colder than where you are, but I'm indoors, and so everything is okay. For those of you who are willing, I would be grateful if you turn on your video camera just so I have a sense of talking to people and not to the void. Here's Rumi, thank you. Oh, this is great. Thank you very much, everybody. And then I'll go. And before we go into Q&A mode, we'll tell you, Charlene will tell you, and then we're going to be stopping the video recording just to protect everybody's privacy, including your kids who may want to run for senator one time and not want the video dug up of their mom saying that they're always beating on their sister or something like that. So with that, let me start. Okay, so today I will talk a little bit about the one thing you can do to be an even better parent, but then you'll talk a lot more about the one thing you can do to be an even better parent. To start off, I want to remind ourselves the really important piece that I've now put in a slide because I sometimes forget to say it, which is you're starting from a 10, right? I mean, the fact that you're even spending time coming here to think about this means that you take parenting really seriously, and good for you and good for your kids. You are an awesome parent already because you're trying your best, and what else can you do beyond that, right? Life happens. None of us are perfect as far as I know. You'll hear me give all kinds of advice and make suggestions. I don't implement them all the time, right? I forget sometimes, or I'm in a bad mood or whatnot. So I want us to start from kind of a human baseline, right? This is not about achieving perfection. It's about learning and doing our best and being better, but also being nice to ourselves about it. Good news is today are going to get even awesomer as we go through this. We're going to go to 11. It's going to be great. Before I start, again, this is an experiment. Usually I put this slide at the end, but I did want to tell you that if you go to the website, not now, because now we're all talking, but later on, Parenting for Humans, there's a lot of materials there. Some of the videos that Charlene is talking about are actually embedded in the website there, but there's also a course that you can take. There's an in-person version where well, Zoom, but there's also a self-paced version. I'll tell you more about this later, but the self-paced version is an experiment, essentially. I'm very curious to see if people might be interested. All these slides will be available to you later, by the way. I'll give you a link where you can download them. So Parenting for Humans is where this happens. Okay. What are goals you might have as a parent, right? What's a thing that you could be doing better? So I encourage you to really think about this for a second. If you were to pick just one thing that you want to do better, and think of like an easy thing that you want to do better as a parent, what's the thing that comes to mind for you? You don't have to share here, obviously. But just think about it in your head, because we're going to do an exercise in a minute. And it doesn't have to be any of these things. It can be something totally different. I'll give you a few seconds to think, and then I'll tell you my process with it. So for me, when I did this exercise just with myself last night, and I thought, yeah, there's a thing that I know is like niggling at me, something that consistently goes differently than how I would like it to go. And so I started thinking about it. So the challenge that I have is that we often, this is with reference to my 4-year-old son, and we often end up with him going to bed too late. And I'm not, I'll say 9 p.m. to be polite. I'm actually okay with later, but I'll say, let's pretend that I want him in bed by 9 p.m. I'm not especially strict, but we kind of end up stretching out. And I'm definitely not going to tell you when we actually go to bed, but it just goes too long. And I think it's to the point where it's detrimental for him. It's not just about being not normative. I don't think it's good for him. It's gotten to be too late. It sort of ended up dragging. So that's something I would like to do differently, right? And I'm just looking for one thing that I feel like I could do better so that he would be better. This is not an enormous thing. Nothing is horrible, right? But like, how can I go again from like 10 to 11? Or even from 10 to 10.1, whatever it is. And this is the kind of thing that I'm hoping you'll think about. So I'll show you my process as I do this. And then I'm gonna kind of blank out my answers so you can do it for yourselves and think about how would you want to do things differently as a parent? What's the one thing you want to do differently? So as I go through it, just a general reminder, I'm gonna be using this framework of building or establishing habits, right? Because I wanna habitually do something a little different as a parent from this day forward. And so what I'm trying to do is build a habit. There's a whole separate session that I do on habits. The link for that is up there. And again, we'll put it in the chat, or maybe Bev, if you're willing to put it in the chat, the URL. But we'll put it there later as well. And there's a recording for this on Charlene's YouTube channel. But I'll give you the very quick and dirty for building good habits. It's really important to have an external trigger, right? So that we don't just spontaneously hope we'll spontaneously remember this new behavior that we haven't been doing so far. We want to have kind of an if-then rule, right? So when somebody does this, I will do that. When somebody asks for a thing, then I will give that. So we want to pick a time or a place or an event that triggers our behavior. And ideally, we choose goals that we can control, which means our behavior, not the results, right? I've been working on writing a book for a long time, and I have this goal of publishing a book, but publishing a book and definitely having it accepted by any kind of publishing house is not a goal I can control. What I can control is how much time I put into it, for example, right? X minutes a day, X hours a week, things like that. Or I can try to do 10 push-ups if I want to exercise, but I can't just decide that I'm going to win a marathon or something like that, right? So input goals is a good idea to have. And then I want to track if I've been able to do it. Thank you, Beth. I want to track if I've been able to do it and what the results were, just so I can stay accountable. And this is not to beat myself up if I haven't done it. It's just so that I know, was I setting a realistic goal, and did this change in behavior achieve the thing that I wanted? This is sounding very lofty, but I'm going to show you how I apply this to bedtime in a second, right? So, and then general principles. If we're trying to establish a new habit, and this is now for us, we're not helping our children establish habits. We are trying to establish a new habit as a parent, to do something a little bit differently consistently. We want to make it a slow change, ideally, right? So not totally different than the way that it's been. We want to feel successful all the time. So pick really easy goals. Hello, Craig. So pick really easy goals that we're going to be able to achieve, and then slowly increase the threshold. And ideally, it's something that's nice for us to do, that just, it doesn't feel like it's a punishment, right? So we find a way to make it feel nice for us as well. And it should be relevant to a goal that we have, or at least a goal that our child has. Okay, so this is the super quick and dirty version of how to build a habit successfully. Slow change that's easy to accomplish, that feels good and relevant to our goals and ideally the goals of our child. And tactically have a trigger, have an, if this happens, then I'll do that, so that you can perform it consistently and have some tracking system in place. Okay, this is all the, again, high level, abstract, scary sounding stuff. Let's go back to bedtime. So the challenge is that we end up going to bed too late. Ideally, let's say I'd want to be in bed by 9 for the purpose of a public recording. And currently we're definitely not in bed by 9. So what is making this hard? So I keep underestimating how long it takes us to wrap up whatever we're doing, usually playing something, and then to shower. And I realized as I was writing this yesterday, I lose track of time in the shower, because we have such a good time in the shower, because he's still little. So I shower with him, and it's just so much fun. I just lose track of time. We end up staying there for a really long time. So that's an issue. Okay, so these are the two things that end up with bedtime being really late. Okay, why is it a good idea to go to bed earlier? This can seem obvious, not just with reference to this example, but in general, right? You have a goal. Why should you think about why you have this goal? I do think it's worth spending a second thinking about it, because a couple of things can happen. One is you might realize this is actually not a necessary goal. This is just some, principle that I have that when I think about it deeply doesn't really matter. So why don't I go invest my energy somewhere else? Or you might remind yourself, what's the purpose behind all of this? So can you all hear me okay? I just got an unmute request, but I think that I'm not muted. Okay, so.
Sorry, that was me, Eran, accident.
Oh, that's okay. It's a compliment really to ask to be unmuted. So it's worth thinking for a second, why exactly is this a good idea, and kind of remotivating ourselves. And in my case, I know that when we go to bed late enough, he sleeps enough. That's not the issue, because he'll just sleep longer. But it disrupts his schedule. He misses out on stuff that he wants to do in the morning. And then what could make this easier to go to bed earlier? And I thought, I can set alarms. That's a genius move, right? To just remind myself when we're in the middle of doing these fun things that it's time to stop. So why don't we set alarms? Okay, so what can I do? And I thought, oh, that's right, the alarms. I brought the thing. So this is a toy originally that my mom bought my son a while back, because he just likes, machines and locomotors. But it turns out has a little alarm clock in it. And so now we can integrate it into times when we need to stop playing and turn it into a less fun toy, presumably. So what can I do easily? I thought, well, I can set 2 alarms. One alarm to say it's time to stop playing and start showering, and another alarm to say it's time to get out of the shower. And this should help us stay on track. So the trigger here would be the alarm that I set. But when do I set the alarm? I need a trigger for that, right? So I thought, okay, I'll set the first alarm when we're sitting down to have dinner, because the locomotor it lives above the dinner table. And so when I sit there, I'll see it and I'll set the first alarm to whenever I think is the right time to do it. Let's say 8 p.m. And then when it goes off, I go to the locomotor and I'll set the second alarm. Great. And then how will I track it? Is I'll write down the time that I write the alarm for, and then the time we get to bed, and just see if it works or if I need to adjust the times to be sooner or later. And then after thinking about all this and making this enormous complicated plan, I thought, I don't need 2 alarms. You know, I should just set 1 alarm about it's time to stop playing. I don't want to limit the shower time. It's fun, right? So we just need to get in the shower earlier, basically. And that's it. So I'll just set 1 alarm for it's time to go get ready for shower, and then see when we end up in bed. And then I'll revise from there. So that's it. This is my easy goal, right? Set an alarm for 8 p.m. whenever we sit down to eat. That's it. That's my plan for that's the one thing I can do to be an even better parent. Okay. So now you. So what I'd like you to do is go through that same exact process. And today, even though we haven't done this in a while, I'm going to actually group you. I'm gonna send you all into breakout rooms and encourage you to go through this list basically and figure out what's the one thing that you can do. And you can talk or you cannot talk when you're in the groups, you know, up to you. But I think talking is good. It creates, you know, a little bit of motivation to come up with real things, but also especially I want you to help each other come up with really easy things to do, to not pick overly ambitious goals, right? Like I can set 1 alarm, that's easy enough, right? But just not to go nuts and be overly ambitious in terms of the changes that we want to make. So what's an easy change we can make that will lead to this thing? Okay, that's really it. So let me stop the share. And I will open the breakout rooms. And let's see if we have 30. So we want maybe 6 rooms. Okay, so I'm gonna click the thing. There should be a button popping up for you that'll say go to breakout room, and then you'll go to the breakout room. And when you're there, work on your own for a bit. And then those of you who want to share the plan, share with others, and others, you know, celebrate the fact that they were brave and shared with you, but also ask what would make this even easier. You know, can you be less ambitious, basically? And then I'll send you a message a couple minutes before we come back to group, and then we'll all wrap up together.